Hey guys, this is James from TeaDB bringing you another Inbetweenisode. So today we have a very special treat. I am drinking a famous tea. This tea is supposedly from 1999. It is a Big Green Tree production. It is the red ticketed version. For those of you that are not familiar, Big Green Tree was a production done by, I think it was done by Monghai Tea Factory around the turn of the century. There's quite a few different batches of it in a few different years. They're sort of known for their wrapper with a green tree on it. And this one is the red ticketed version, which is not quite as famous as the black ticketed version, but they're both extremely expensive. So it's the sort of tea that you can only really taste if you either A, have a lot of money, or B, off of the generosity of either someone with a lot of money or someone that bought it when the tea was more inexpensive. So thank you very much to Thomas, or 3B as he is known on the Hong Kong tea forum. So when I visited Hong Kong, Toby, who does the sort of curated boxes, was nice enough to introduce me and sort of organize a tea meetup, which Toby wasn't at because he lives in Australia, of course. So it was pretty awesome to just drink a lot of teas. People were very generous. Thomas especially was extremely generous in the tea he brought out. So huge thank you to those guys. And so he even let me take a couple of the samples that we didn't get to home. This is one of those teas. So I thought I would bring it on to at least share some of the notes with you guys. So this tea was originally sort of thought to be, or at least marketed as, a Iwu. But now people are saying that is a Nano, which is in Monghai County, which is sort of far west from Iwu. So very different regions. I can't speak too much to that other than I'm just saying what people have told me about this. So I have infusion number 2 and 3 in front of me. As you guys can sort of see, the liquid is pretty dark. This tea supposedly saw some humid storage a little bit early on in its life. At this point, the tea is pretty aired out. And you can sort of smell, it has sort of like a rich medicinal cherry smell to go with like some grains. And I'm going to start drinking so this water doesn't cool down too much. It's pretty soft for a raw. We can sort of expect that that might be a byproduct of the humid storage early on. Yeah, it's soft, but it's not quite like a pillow. It's not quite soft and fluffy. It has a really nice richness to it. I would say definitely some rich pine wood, some cherry. Very smooth overall. There is a bit of astringency, but it's pretty light at this point. And we're going to keep on going just to showcase a few more infusions for this tea. So from my perspective, and my sense of color is admittedly not great. Sometimes I will film these episodes and I'll be like, wait, that looks like a different color on my screen than the camera, but it looks like a pretty vivid red to me. So definitely showing some signs of maturation. It does not taste at all like a traditionally stored tea. If it did, it would be a very lightly one. So even thicker, woodier. Maybe some florals coming into the tea as well. So I'd say the tea's taste is pretty upfront. If you were asking me to region guess, I could believe Nanu for sure. You could probably trick me into believing a number of regions if I'm just being 100% honest, if I were to judge strictly from the taste. It has a nice depth that does go to the back of the mouth. And we're going to drink, I'm going to do 4 and 5 on camera. And that will, I think, conclude it. So let's see. I'm trying to be fairly aggressive in these infusions, a little bit more so than normal, just so we can get all of the oomph out of this tea. So even though it has seen some humid storage, this is brewing up to be slightly astringent. So in comparison to sort of some of the traditionally stored raws that I'll normally drink, this is definitely a little bit drier, a little bit more astringent or bitter than those teas can get. Similar notes coming off of that. So maybe a bit more fungal, a bit more mushroomy going on. I would say that overall the tea has a pretty strong oomph to it. This is not a light tea. There are subtle teas to be found, I am sure, but I would not describe it as a particularly subtle tea. The mouthfeel, and I'm starting to grasp it a little bit better now, has a strong, thick syrup feel immediately after drinking this, and this was a pretty strong brew. Sort of that dryness and that astringency comes in. It's important to note sort of how that converts, if that sort of eventually converts to sweeter feelings, or if it just stays and completely dries out your mouth. I'm noticing that there is a bit of a slow building sweetness sort of coating the throat. I would say overall, if there is any energy to be found, it's not overpowering at all. I am starting to maybe feel a little bit of that chesty feeling going on. It's still pretty light now, so I don't want to over exaggerate it. My notes also tell me that there was some sort of chesty feeling over the course of the entire session. Again, a really rich smell coming off of that. A lot of those drier wood grains, actually, and I've smelled that in a few other teas before, and they're usually drier stored teas, so maybe that is a byproduct of sort of like the drier storage that has happened more recently during this tea's storage. Woody, bitter, sweet, bitter, and then sweet comes. I'd say it's changed a decent amount, steep to steep. The texture is probably the most significant part of it. I'd say it's part oily, part syrupy. It almost comes off a bit buttery, although the astringency makes it feel quite a bit different than that. I can feel that my mouth is starting to feel a bit dry. If I were to brew this tea again, I'd probably take a slightly lighter hand. I can feel that the tea is starting to heat me up and starting to cause me to sweat a little bit. I am drinking this on a rather warm summer day here in Seattle. So yeah, I think that just about concludes this Inbetweenisode. I am getting the poo burps from this tea, so even my body is telling me that it is time to stop. I can guarantee you that I will continue drinking this tea for a while. So huge thank you to 3B. That was a lot of fun meeting you, a lot of fun drinking tea. Extremely generous again. Thank you to Toby as well, just for making this episode happen. I will probably be bringing one other famous tea that 3B gave me a sample of, the 1999 Chongtai, onto a normal episode with Denny. But that just concludes this one. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening to my notes, and I will see you guys next time.